Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, June 23rd, 2020. Let me ask you a question. Would you describe yourself, your life, as fruitful or fruitless? I think this is an important question because it helps us ask whether or not we are giving energy to others. Are we yielding things that then themselves can take root and grow on their own? Or are we self-enclosed? Are we tied up with ourselves in such a way that ultimately we're not yielding new life? This is an important question about what it means to be a member of relational society. In order to think about this idea of fruitful lives, let me suggest that Rainer Maria Rilke, in his Book of Hours, gives us an amazing way to understand why fruitful lives matter. Let me read you just a couple stanzas. He's talking here about the way that cities and industrialization and capitalism has a way of sucking our very essence away from us and replacing it with external concerns for money, power, and esteem instead of virtue, identity, and fruitfulness. Let's hear his words. Their people serve the culture of the day, losing all balance and moderation, calling their aimlessness progress, driving recklessly where they once drove slow, and with all that metal and glass making such a racket. It's as if they were under a spell. They can no longer be themselves. Money keeps growing, takes all their strength, and empties them like a scouring wind, while they wait for wine and poisonous passions to spur them to fruitless occupations. That's an amazing couple stanzas. Notice, when we lose the ancient virtues, moderation, balance, slowness, patience, etc., when we lose this, we also lose ourselves. We can no longer be ourselves, he says. Why? Because the Socratic idea of knowing yourself depends on having a ground for who you are. But if in fact we simply receive ourselves from the external culture of speed and power and wealth, that ends up offering ourselves back to ourselves as empty shells. We instead, as he puts it, end up always moving around and yet never coming to stand still. We are calling our aimlessness itself progress. And then he ends, to spur them to fruitless occupations. What happens if we lose our virtue? What happens if we lose a sense of self except as grounded in externalities? We also end up spending our lives in fruitless ways. We need to be fruitful. We need to care about others in order that we yield for them something that is nutrient rich, something that allows them to be able to put down roots and then develop forward. If we can't do that for others, Rilke suggests it's unlikely that we have even been able to do it for ourselves. Maybe this is the whole point. When Martin Luther talks about sin, he describes it as a self turned in on itself, instead of a self that is ruptured outward towards others. That is something that I think we've got to avoid. May we not be fruitless in our occupations because we have lost our identity, because we sold our virtue out for aimless progress. Instead, let's find directions that matter. Let's anchor ourselves in virtue. That's fruitful living. That's the goal. I'll see you tomorrow, unless a piano falls on our heads.